Okay, good evening, everyone. This is a joint meeting of the Town of West Newbury Select Board and the Finance Committee. Announcements. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for the rebroadcast on local cable channels and on the internet. Meeting also accessible by remote participation. Instructions below. Virtual Arbor Day celebration, Friday, April 30th and Saturday, May 1st. See Tree Committee webpage for details. Townwide cleanup and celebration of Earth Day, Saturday and Sunday, May 1st and 2nd. Check out the webpage for details. The town election is May 3rd, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Annual and special town meeting, Saturday, May 22nd, 2021. Time to be determined. Reminder to subscribe for email town news announcements at westnewbury.org/subscribe. Regular business, joint meeting with the Finance Committee, Moderator, Town Council, Town Manager regarding town meetings to be held Saturday, May 22nd, 2021. All right, now I'm lost.
Okay. All right. So I know each of you have received the proposed warrants along with a tally of what the Select Board and the FinCom recommendations to date have been. Any articles that had not previously been taken up were taken up last night by the Select Board and or tonight by the FinCom. So at this point, both the Select Board and FinCom have made all of their recommendations on all proposed articles as needed. I say that because things like the town reports and the water instructions, the boards didn't take recommendations, but all the typical ones have been recommended one way or the other. So the Select Board did vote last night to sign and finalize the warrant. So that's been made available for signature, and that's expected to be posted later this week for both the special and the annual. They did set the start time as 10 a.m. on May 22nd. And that'll be outdoors again at the bandstands. And Wayne and DPW are going to work with Adam on the sound and would follow the same formula that's worked so well the last couple of meetings.
We will just hope for weather like last year. Absolutely.
With this thing, I have to point.
Very directional, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so would we read the article? Is there?
I would say, Gary, you're closer to the mic, just so we know, and then Angus will have the votes so that we all double check that we've got the votes right, and that's the way I would say to do it.
Just read the article and then we'll just go over it.
Yeah.
We can hear you well, Archie, by the way.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you well.
Oh, okay.
Read it. Yeah, if I sit over here, that's where we'll be too close.
Okay, let's start with the special. Article 2, and to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $33,000 for all costs and expenses pertaining to the repair and replacement of the fire alarm system at the John C. Page School building, or take any other action relative thereto.
Finance Committee was unanimous in support.
Can you say the select board position as well?
As we're at board select.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think Angus had it all written down.
Yeah, I can do a screen share. It's page 40 of the share packet. Okay, great. So this is some of the language on. I'll do a screen share here. Some of this language is a little bit dated, but it's basically The only thing is really the Coffin Street, because at the time we put, I did the annotated version, we hadn't yet, CPC hadn't yet voted it. So we didn't put the language in, but basically this is close to final. We have the final language that was sent around today and is going to be signed this week. But this summarizes the actions up to, other than those taken last night or tonight. So, and I think,
Well, I have it on page 60, on page 60 of last night's thing. Is that the best?
that's the same. You're looking at the select board packet, they're looking at the
So,
FinCom packet.
FinCom, 4-0 in approval, and select board 3-0 in approval. Sunset 6/30/22, 2020, and that would funding from that would be from
That is a capital stabilization.
okay. So
Excuse me, everyone. I'm having a hard time understanding what you're saying. And this is very interesting. You were just talking about the source of funding for Article 2.
Article 2, source of funding was capital stabilization.
Capital stabilization. And did we pass over that one already? Everything's very garbled here.
Archie, maybe if you're going to be reading it, maybe it would be best to move up closer to that.
Yeah.
Or as far as I'm concerned, you can take your mask off, but I don't know how other people feel.
The other thing I would say is, as a viewer at home, it is always helpful if you are listening on a computer's audio to plug in with headphones and listen through headphones. You will hear much more clearly if you can listen through headphones.
Which is, yeah, I just did that. You are absolutely correct. The garbling is when somebody's, I think Angus is moving something around and it's creating some static, I think, too. I think he might-
The issue, Glenn, is this thing is directional. So I have to turn it to face whoever's speaking. So, but
I got you.
But if Casey is having trouble hearing and if she has headphones, it would be helpful to her to use the headphones.
Casey, can you hear that okay?
I heard that I should use headphones. I unfortunately do not have headphones. And so that's a nice,
Casey, I think going
nice
forward,
idea, but I don't have headphones.
but
So,
I think you're going to hear things fine going forward. I just, if people here in the room can just give me a heads up before you speak so I can point the mic to you, there will not be a problem.
okay. So are we still on Article 2 or have we gone past that?
didn't catch that at all.
Are we still on Article 2?
Yes.
And the source of funding is capital stabilization?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm caught up, but I'll let you know if I'm still having trouble with the sound.
Okay. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer from CPA funds the sum of $104,850 for all costs and expenses pertaining to the repair, restoration, and preservation of West Newbury Town Hall, or take any other action relative thereto. The FinCom approved that 4-0, and the Select Board approved that 3-0. The sunset on that would be June 30th, 2023, and so this would be from CPA funds. Would that be all from which part?
So the painting of the town hall would come about half and half from historical and undesignated. So it's 51,675 from historical, 53,175 from undesignated.
And the purpose for that is to leave enough to meet an anticipated bond payment in 2022, correct? Fiscal year 2023, but calendar year 2022.
Well, fiscal 23, yeah. The issue is we can't, you cannot expend funds received within, you can't expend CPC funds received within that fiscal year until they're certified. So that number that I just read, the 51,675, was chosen because that would leave, after the historic property survey, it would leave a remaining balance estimated at the, after all is said and done, of 85,000. So that way, looking ahead to FY23, we know we'll have 85,000, which is about what we think the debt service will be on the soldiers and sailors. So that's the rationale. So you could carve it up different ways, but I think that's going to make the most sense. I don't know if that helped.
No, that's good. Okay, moving on to Article 4. To see if the town will vote to transfer from CPA funds the sum of 30,000 even for costs and expenses pertaining to the design and construction of an all-access trail commonly referred to as the Whetstone Greenway, proposed to be located between River Meadow Drive and Sullivan's Court Extension, or take any other action thereto. This was approved 5-0 by the FinCom and 3-0 by the Select Board. The sunset on that is June 30th, 2024. And so would those all come from our recreation area of CPA?
It's penciled in as undesignated.
Okay.
For the reason being, so the certified amount in the CPC open space bucket is 43,240. So we don't want to expend more than that. And so this is written that would come from Coffin Street. But I mean, you can move this stuff around, but the fund balance table is what I would recommend.
So is the, I have to say, at what point is that decision not irrevocable, but the undesignated portion, can that be used to fill any sort of shortfall, or does someone does the town have to vote to do it a specific way? I guess that's my question.
That's a good question. I think I would ask Mike that is, typically the language of the motion would specify what amount is coming from this bucket versus that bucket. Is there an option, Mike, to write a motion that would basically allow the amount to come from undesignated that needs to fill the gap? Is that your question, Archie?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Basically is that all the motions for the CPC funding are they just refer to CPC funding. I mean, the articles, I should only refer to CPC funding. So the motion can be tailored to have it out of whichever fund is appropriate at the time. The only exception to that is Article 13 of the annual town warrant, because in that one, we actually designated that the transfer of some would be from the open space and recreational reserve. So what I would suggest is that that's the only one that we would take it out of the open space reserve, and all the other ones that would be eligible to be taken out of the open space and recreational reserve actually be taken out of the undesignated fund balance. Make sense?
Jim, I'm sorry, you have a question, comment?
Actually, I believe Mike just answered my question. So on the FinCom booklet narratives, where we write our rationale and then we put a funding source, obviously it's CPA, but do we actually put the word undesignated or for?
I don't think it's necessary because it's all the same, it's all the same fund. The importance from my perspective is that the motion on town meeting floor is what is going to govern the appropriation. The FinCom booklet basically can, say that it's coming from CPC funds. So you don't have to do that because it'll be the motion that's read on town meeting floor that will designate it. Now, the only reason I suggest that Article 13 of the annual town meeting is limited is because we actually limited it in the warrant. And so to be consistent, we should make sure that it
But
comes out of the fund.
Michael, if someone were to make a motion under Article 13 to transfer from Community Preservation Act funds and did not say open space and recreation reserve, and instead said undesignated funds or something else, I don't think that motion would be out of order because it would be in the sense of what was happening. So I don't think that the fact that the warrant article says it comes from open space and recreation reserve really limits the mover to that fund. I mean, I would think that a motion that said that they would transfer from Community Preservation Act funds from any of the open accounts would be in the spirit of this motion, of this article.
Two things. Number one, you're the moderator. You're the one who makes a judgment call as to whether or not it's within the scope of the article.
Right.
My own feeling is why create even a question? Because
Well, I agree, but why was this put into this particular article?
I think when people
Not into the others.
because when people were drafting it, they in their mind they knew that it was they wanted it to come out of this reserve. When I drafted some of the other ones, I only said community preservation funds in order to preserve the option.
Right.
I agree with you, but my point is that all the other motions, all the other articles just say generally. And so just so that there isn't a controversy. So we'd hate to get to a circumstance where somebody would do that and then have someone from the state say, oh no, there's a problem here. That's,
Well,
you know,
I mean, that's true. I mean, I would rather not have that happen. But in terms of what's doable at town meeting, I don't think that this particular wording in the article.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to avoid the potential that a state bureaucrat, because remember, we have to get all these fundings, certified by the state,
Right.
in order to approve the budget for the next year. And why create a controversy?
I wouldn't, and I don't think, honestly, that there would be somebody who would take this up as an issue, although one never knows, does one?
Yeah, so I mean, but the point is, we only have 43,000 that is currently that is currently certified under the open space and recreation.
Right.
We have in excess of about 250,000 of articles that are approvable because of their open space and recreation.
Mhm.
Since we're going to spend down most of the open space and recreation one anyways, why not put it towards the one that is consistent?
All right. Thank you very much. So we've read that. Next one, Article 4. Want me to read it, David? Go ahead. To see if the town will vote to transfer from Community Preservation Act funds a sum of $30,000 for costs and expense pertaining to the design and construction of an all-access trail, commonly referred to as the Whetstone Greenway, proposed to be located between River Meadow Drive and Sullivan's Court Extension, or take any other action related thereto, by request of the Community Preservation Committee and the Open Space Committee, unanimously approved by the Board of Selectmen and unanimously approved by the Finance Committee. Sunset date 6/30/24. funding Community Preservation Act.
Undesignated.
Undesignated.
Article 5, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of, has that been changed? 74? Is that the most accurate number, Angus?
That is current. Yeah.
$74,022 to fund the fiscal year 2021 snow and ice deficit, unanimously supported by the Board of Selectmen and supported by a majority 3-1 by the Finance Committee. Was that free cash?
Yes.
Yep.
Angus, we originally believed that will not change at this point.
We do. Yep.
Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $3,137 to fund the Essex Agricultural and Technical School fiscal year 2021 budget deficit by request of the town manager. Unanimously supported by the Board of Selectmen and unanimously supported by the Finance Committee, 4 in favor. Is that free cash?
Yes.
Okay. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $287.57 to resolve a deficit resulting from over expenditure of funds from the World War II Gym Stabilization Fund that occurred in fiscal year 2016 by the request of the town accountant / business manager. Unanimously supported, 4 in favor, 0 opposed by the Finance Committee, and 3-0 by the Board of Selectmen.
What?
I have a question.
Yeah,
Am I allowed to ask questions?
sure. Go ahead.
I'll call on you.
Okay, okay. Will you call on me, please?
Sure. Madam Moderator.
I have a question about the quantum of vote on Article 7. Typically, bills from previous years require a 9/10 vote. This was a little bit ambiguous to me because it's something that clearly is a previous year's thing. Does this require a 9/10 vote?
Yes, I would say that it does require a 9/10 vote. Because
Right.
it's an over expenditure of an account.
Right,
There wasn't money in the account. And since this is being done on the special town meeting warrant, it would require a 9/10 vote.
Which I think is the same as Article 8, 2.
No, Article 8 is a little different. Because it wasn't an over expenditure of the funds because the funds were coming from a grant.
Let me read Article 8. To see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $3,948.03 to resolve deficits from expired grants that did not close out properly in fiscal year 2018 and fiscal year 2019 by request of the town accountant / business manager. Unanimously supported by the Board of Selectmen and supported 4 in favor, 0 opposed by the Finance Committee. Funding?
Free cash.
Free cash.
Free cash.
Article 9, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $100,000 to fund unbudgeted costs associated with the operation and administration of public health clinics to administer the COVID-19 vaccine or take any other action related thereto by request of the Board of Health. Unanimously supported by the Finance Committee, no votes listed by the Board of Selectmen.
They
but
did
I'd
vote
say
unanimously
unanimous.
last night to recommend it.
And the funding on that is free
Free
cash.
cash.
Okay.
So.
Yep.
Yes, we did. Article 10, to see, we voted on that tonight, to see if the town will vote to transfer the available funds of, was it $90,000? To fund unbudgeted personnel costs or take any other action related thereto. We voted unanimously on that this evening. I unanimously voted on it, and the funding on that is
Free
free
cash.
cash. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $18,000 for all costs and expenses pertaining to the replacement of the Public Safety Network server by request of the police chief. This was unanimously supported by the Board of Selectmen and also unanimously supported, 5 in favor, 0 opposed by the Finance Committee with a recommended sunset date of 6/30/2022. Funding free cash.
Free cash.
Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds a sum of $15,000 to fund consulting support toward compliance with the stormwater management permit issued to the town of West Newbury by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or take any other action related thereto by request of the Department of Public Works Director. This was unanimously supported by the Finance Committee, sunset date 6/30/22, and also unanimously supported by the Board of Selectmen. Funding free cash. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds a sum of $8,500 to cover the cost to conduct a utility property revaluation analysis and report in accordance with the updated Mass DOR methodology for the valuation of utilities by request of the Board of Assessors. This was unanimously supported by the Finance Committee with a recommended sunset date of 6/30/2022, and also unanimously supported by the Board of Selectmen. Free cash?
This is Article 13.
You read Article 14.
I'm sorry.
Read Article 14.
Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $9,050 to fund costs related to the assessing department network server by request of the Board of Assessors. This was unanimously supported by the Finance Committee, 5 in favor, 0 opposed, sunset date 6/30/2022, and also unanimously supported by the Board of Selectmen. I've done 14. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to transfer
That was-
Excuse me, Article 13 is free cash.
Free cash.
free cash.
This is important because of the vote. You understand that?
I do, thank you. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to transfer.
What is the source of funding on Article 14?
Free cash.
Free cash.
Article 15, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $7,000 for all costs and expenses pertaining to identifying, mapping, and remediating invasive species on public lands in the town of West Newbury, or take any other action related thereto by request of the Climate Change Resiliency Committee. Article 15 was not recommended by the Finance Committee in a split vote, 2 in favor and 2 opposed. The Select Board were unanimous in their support of the article. Funding source is
Free cash.
free cash.
Just had a comment that saying it's not recommended, but it's 2-2, that seems grammatically incorrect, yeah. Yeah.
I think the way we typically write that on the, and I'll look at past booklets, but I think we usually write split vote, 2-2 or 3-3 when that comes up. I think that's typically how we determine that.
Yeah, I was just concerned that not recommended, sort of, if somebody doesn't listen to anything that applies.
No, I think
Both sides of the argument will be presented, split, there'll be two narratives, so, and you know. I think they'll have one to choose from. I can do these ones. I didn't vote on many of them in the annual town meeting. I mean, they're,
A lot of the non-financial.
the non-financial ones, we didn't vote on. So
and we're past.
we went through the special, yeah, we're done with the special.
We're on a special.
We finished.
We were done.
Yeah, we just finished 15.
I know.
Yep, so we're up for that.
So if you want to do the annual, I mean, because half of them I didn't vote on.
Okay.
So when I ask for the recommendation of the Finance Committee, you do not have a recommendation for Article 15?
Split vote, 2-2.
That's not what I asked. You said that the Finance Committee did not recommend. It's a split vote. I understand that. But when I read the article, the first thing I say is, what is the recommendation of the Finance Committee? If the Finance Committee has no recommendation, I won't say that. So I need to know from the Finance Committee which articles you wish to not make a recommendation on, because you've said several times you don't have a recommendation because it's not a financial article.
Okay, well, 15, we don't want to make a recommendation on.
No.
Okay, would you please send me a list of those articles for both the special town meeting and the annual town meeting for which you do not wish to make a recommendation, and I will not ask for your recommendation.
Okay, so it seems like a little confusing here. So there's a difference between 15, where there's no recommendation or a split vote, versus things that have no financial implication, or articles that have no financial implication. And the Finance Committee makes no recommendation.
So would you have a pro and a con on the last one?
Yeah,
Or
so we will.
Two narratives.
And I understand what
That's
Casey's asking
so I
for.
think Casey, they would have they're gonna have a recommendation both ways on this particular one.
But I understand what she's asking for. If
Yeah.
if Angus could just connect me with her email offline, I can send that to her if she wants that list, no problem.
That would certainly make it more understandable for the town. If there's not going to be a finance committee recommendation, I won't ask for one.
Certainly.
Okay, let's move on to the annual town meeting. Article 2. Anyone that's listening, I would recommend that if you have a report that you would wish that be presented, that it would be given to, give Angus some notice and Casey also, and that it, in the interest of time, because again, we're still doing this outdoors, that it be kept relatively brief. And probably we're not going to have any way of doing audio visual presentation. So although, keep all those things in mind. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $397,325 from the school stabilization fund to pay a portion of the town share of debt associated with the building of the new middle high school. The article was approved 4-0 by the FinCom and 3-0 by the Board of Selectmen. The sunset date on that would be 2022. I just would ask Angus, would you see any reason why is there a possibility that for some reason that the sunset date would have some kind of effect on it? Can you see some reason why you wouldn't do that that year? Just no. Okay. Article 3.
Excuse me. I have a question for Michael. This is 2/3, correct, Michael?
2/3, yes.
Thank you.
Article 3, to determine what sums of money the town will raise and appropriate. So this is the annual town budget that was approved 3-0 by the select board, and the overall budget was, what was the vote of the FinCom?
Sorry, which one?
Because this is the
Article 3 is the omnibus budget.
the overall omnibus budget.
Oh, we voted to support. We made some adjustments. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not indicated on here, but we did vote to support
We
it.
voted in favor. We made a few adjustments.
Yeah, okay.
May I have a copy of that budget before the town meeting, please?
It's, Casey, it's posted to the town website. I'll send you the link.
Thank you.
It will also be the FinCom booklet.
Right.
And it will be the FinCom's recommendations that will be that there will be the motion.
Is that finalized now? He said they made some modifications.
That's all reflected in what's posted to the town website.
And that's the final now.
That's the final. Oh, well, with tonight's changes, yeah. It doesn't,
Okay, so I should pick it up maybe tomorrow or the day after, or?
As soon as they can.
I mean, there's 2 changes. I'll send you the link and I'll let you know when the 2 changes are built in.
Okay, that'd be good.
Article 4, in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 38 of the Acts of 1936, as to what instructions, rules, and regulations the town may wish to impose on the Board of Water Commissioners. Casey, the Select Board does intend to make some recommendations to the Water Commissioners. So we're
Okay.
not going to just fly over that one. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to appropriate in anticipation of water department revenue, the sum of $863,649, of which $280,038 for salaries and wages, which include $1,700 for water commissioner stipends, $47,248 for insurances, $339,399, I like that number, for expenses, $124,068 for debt service, $20,000 for extraordinary and unforeseen expenses, and $52,896 for indirect costs or take any other action there too. The select board was unanimous in approval of this, and the FinCom just voted this. Correct or no? Before I came in, did you vote on this or no?
Yes, you did. Yeah. Well, they voted last night. Or, I'm sorry, tonight. The water budget? Sure it was.
STM 1014. STM 10.
Okay. No, you did vote it.
We must have voted for water.
No, it was the numbers have only been known very shortly.
Right, it was in, yeah, I received it on the Friday before your meeting on April 13th. So it would be in the minutes that you sent out yesterday. Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I'm certain that you recommended it.
Yeah, I don't know why we wouldn't.
What to do, we should just, any reason you might not take a revote just to make sure that you did vote?
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, we can actually look at it, makes sense, Archie, if we can actually confirm absolutely, it makes sense.
Well, approved, 5-0.
Okay. You're fast. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $500,000 to be placed in the water stabilization fund in order to fund capital expenditures for water-related projects or take any other action thereto. FinCom recommended approval by 3-2. The select board approved this 3-0, and this money would be coming from the water department free cash account. So does this need a 2/3 vote to go in?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $270,000 for all costs and expenses pertaining to improvements to the Pipe Stave Hill water tank. Approved by the FinCom 5-0, a sunset of 6/30/2024, and approved by the select board 3-0.
Source of fund water stabilization, or water free cash.
This would be, so this is no, okay, this is coming from water department free cash, okay? To see if the town will, Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or transfer from available funds the sum of $76,261 for the pension liability stabilization fund or take any other action thereto. These funds would be coming from free cash. It was approved by the FinCom 4-0, approved by the select board 3-0 with a sunset of 6/30/2022.
Why does this need a sunset? It's just taking money from one account to another. Why do you need a sunset?
I think it's good. I think it's good because it makes sure we do it. Sometimes we haven't, sometimes we've forgotten to put things in stabilization accounts. I think it's actually not a bad idea. I don't know.
I don't think there's no harm in it.
There's no negative. It's good for accounting purposes.
Okay.
Article 9, to see if the town will vote to to raise and appropriate and or transfer from available funds the sum of 15,000 for the other post-employment benefit stabilization fund. Take any other action there too. Again, these funds would be coming from free cash, approved 5-0 by the FinCom and 3-0 by the Select Board.
So to be a troublemaker, let me pose a question. Why, if we had a sunset date for the fire article, why don't we have a sunset date?
I totally thought the same thing, and I love it, and I think we should have one. And I make a motion to add a sunset date of end of fiscal year 22 to Article 9.
I second that motion. Any discussion? Jim, Joe? All is in favor of sunset as recommended, unanimously passes.
So the sunset would be 6/30/2022.
Yes.
Article 10, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $10,363, I hate saying this, from the septic loan revolving account for the repayment of debt service. Article 10 was approved by the FinCom 5-0, 3-0 by the Select Board. And the source of funding for this is the septic loan revolving account.
To Rick's point, should we be adding a sunset to this? And I look forward to Article 11, think the same thing, Article 12, Article 13, I mean, yeah, 13 already has one, I didn't look at that correctly.
May I make a quick comment?
Sure.
From Article 8 to Article 10, just so you know, these articles get moved on July 1st of the new fiscal year 22. So I would never move it on the end of this. You guys really don't need a sunset date if you feel better with it, but once audit comes around, they all have to be moved before year end anyhow.
We don't need to make it more complicated.
Yeah.
Let's keep rolling.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Okay.
You're welcome.
And it's hard to say sunset and septic in the same sentence. Okay. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to allocate, I hate this, to allocate or and or reserve from the CPC fund annual revenues, the amounts recommended by the CPC for community administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other expenses in FY 2022, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation or take any other action related thereto. $228,704 for estimated expenses for community for committee administrative expenses. Reserve of 57,408 for community housing reserve, 57,408 estimated revenues for historic resources reserve, 57,408 for estimated revenues for open space and recreation reserve, and reserve of 373,160 for estimated reserves for budgeted reserves. This was approved 3-0 by the Select Board and 5-0 by the FinCom. Yeah.
Jessica?
Oh, just a point of order, is there a reason that we need to read all the articles? In the interest of time, I'm just wondering if we can just.
Yeah.
read them.
I cannot understand the discussion.
Jessica asked if there was a reason the articles needed to be read in their entirety at tonight's meeting, and it was agreed that they do not.
No, they do. It's the law.
Tonight's
No,
meeting,
Oh,
Tonight's
tonight's,
meeting.
okay.
I mean,
I do or I don't?
It might be helpful if there's any questions asked in the room, Angus, when you answer them, it might be good for you to not just answer it, but then say the question too. It might help everybody.
Okay. Article 12, CPA funds, 25,000 to conduct historic site survey, approved 3-0 by the Select Board and 5-0 by the FinCom. Money from the, is this completely from the historic reserve area or not?
Yes.
Okay. Article 13,
Excuse me, Article 12 does not specify that. It depends on the motion.
but it's just so that we know, so that the motion probably will say that.
But if it doesn't, then it doesn't have to come from that.
Okay, Article 13, to see if the town will vote to transfer from CPA funds 30,000 for costs and expenses for design of a trail, all access trail associated features at Mill Pond. The vote was 5-0 for the FinCom, 3-0 for the Select Board, sunset of 6/30/2023. So that would be, that seems like a reasonable sunset. That's a couple of years, and yeah.
Is that the sunset for Article 13, Archie?
Yes. Article 14,
There's no sunset specified in Article 13. Are you amending that?
It's 6/30/2023. For Article 13,
It's written right there in red.
Okay,
Article 14. 175,000 for the fee simple acquisition of 30+ acres and acquisition of a conservation restrictions on 21 acres of land off of Coffin Street. The vote for the FinCom just recently approved that, Article 3-2. That was disapproved by the Select Board 2-1. So it's a vote on that.
1 to 2, wasn't it?
Correct.
You said the opposite.
Yeah, I said disapproved, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
My mistake.
double negative.
When we write the book, it's usually in the affirmative, and then it's 1 to 2. It would be.
I think the way you do it is better.
Okay.
I agree.
I can't understand the conversation.
The conversation was essentially saying how to say what our recommendations were, and I was indicating that when we write things in the FinCom booklet, if we will indicate that it was not approved, and then the first vote is always the approval votes, and then second is the disapproving votes, and then any abstaining votes. So the Select Board vote would be disapproved 1-2-0.
And the FinCom?
It was, what did we say tonight?
3-2.
3-2.
No, but wait, I think it's confusing to say
Do you have a page with the-
disapprove 1-2. You should say,
There's a page within the booklet
Okay.
that I could bring up and I could show you that does illustrate exactly how it's written. It shows all the different potential scenarios. It's usually around page 5 of the booklet, but it does illustrate exactly how it's written, and it's pretty clear.
It's only important that the people at the meeting understand.
I didn't catch what the
It's
case
only
is.
important that
I
people-
can't hear you. That's not clear.
I said it's most important that the people at the meeting understand.
Correct. Article 15, to see if the town will raise and appropriate 700,000 to be placed in the capital stabilization fund, approved by the Select Board 3-0. The FinCom just did 5-0, and this would be money from free cash going into the capital stabilization account. Article 16.
Archie, can I just ask a question? Stephanie, is that one of the transfers that happens immediately? first.
Yes,
At the beginning of the fiscal year.
the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st.
Yeah, see, not to get into a lot of, I actually don't agree with that. It would happen in the fiscal year, but it earns a lot more income staying in stabilization. So Caitlin and I actually typically would make those transfers in June so that it could earn more investment income before.
No, you're going backwards.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, you're right, yeah.
You want to do it early because it earns more money in stabilization.
Right, okay, yeah, transfer into stabilization would
I
be,
guess my point was.
Taking it out.
My point was the sunset date question again.
It was a sunset on the sunset. Okay, Article 16, transfer from available funds a sum of $600,000 for costs and expenses pertaining to the town's share of the Middle Street Bridge. So this was approved 4-0 by the FinCom, 3-0 by the Select Board, a sunset date of 6/30/24. Angus, refresh me a little bit on this. So at the moment, we're not expending those costs. So where's that money gonna go? Where's it going at the moment? If we're not expending it?
you mean the 600,
The 600, yeah. In other words, we don't need to touch that yet.
right, yeah, we have more than enough funding from the MassWorks grant to take the project fully through design. So it could not be, construction contract could not be awarded until the full amount of funds for the construction is appropriated, which of course is beyond just our control because that's going to rely on appropriations from the city of Newburyport. So if it was authorized for use, it would be, Stephanie would set up a separate account in the chart of accounts. So it would be kind of in the accounting system, it would be moved over because it would only then be available for that use. But it would remain, in terms of the banking, it would stay in the stabilization fund until it's actually expended, which could, based on what we now know, could be 18 months or 2 years. So
All I'm saying is, this is the opposite of what we just said. You want to keep this in there as long as possible to keep it generating interest. Exactly. Okay.
But this is county.
Correct. So this Article 16 is a,
well, it's being authorized to expend from capital stabilization, but it's not actually being transferred out of stabilization. There would not be any reason to do that.
you said that, it still requires a 2/3 vote. Correct. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so everyone get that? 2/3 vote on Article 16. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $95,000 for all costs for roof repairs to the town buildings. Approved 4-0 by the FinCom, 3-0 by the Select Board, sunset of 6/30/2023. And this would be coming from FC? Or is this capital? Okay. So this is
2/3
another 2/3 then.
Could you repeat where it's coming from, Archie? Was that free cash or?
Well, that's what I just said. So Article 17, the roof repairs is a capital, so that's coming from capital stabilization. So that's a 2/3 vote.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? Because I missed what was Article 16 is that also coming from a stabilization fund?
Yes, it is. And that, Casey, that is also a 2/3.
I understand that it's 2/3, but is it the capital stabilization fund?
Yes. Okay. Article 18, 35,000, Jaws of Life equipment approved 5-0 by FinCom, 3-0 by Select Board. That would be coming from capital stabilization and a sunset of 6/30/2022. So that's a 2/3 vote also.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Correct.
I ask you if we could do Article 24 next, at which point the Finance Committee's portion of the meeting is concluded and we can adjourn. All right, thank you. I'm having a great time.
Article 24, by citizen petition, to see if the town will vote to delay any additional expenditure on the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Building project until a defined productive use for this building is identified and approved. So that is the wording of the petition. This was voted, the select board not 0, the FinCom not 5. So that's where that stands.
Make a motion to adjourn the finance committee.
I have a request. Please do not forget to send me a list of those things on which you do not wish to make a recommendation so that I will not ask for it.
Lots of things to do.
Jim, you have a question?
I do actually, before we adjourn the FinCom, it's kind of a minor point, but going back to Article 6 of the annual town meeting, I was kind of surprised when I saw that that I was opposed, and I went back through Nathan's minutes of that meeting, and it turns out that I was not opposed. I believe it was Jess that was
Yeah, it was
opposed.
Jess. Yeah,
Yes, okay, good. Just wanted to clarify that.
thanks, Jim.
Sure, thank you.
Anybody have any other? Right, we talked about that the other day, and I said I think it was Joe. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments about adjournment? All is in favor of adjourning? Joe? All right, we're adjourned.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you, guys.
everyone.
Good night.
I want to come.
Won't be far behind.
Okay, Article 19. To see if the town will vote to accept as a public way the layout of Cortlandt Lane. This was approved 3-0 by the select board. I would ask Mike if there's any special for the acceptance of a town road. Is there anything we need to anything special about it? A simple majority or no?
One of the powers in here is to also to take by eminent domain. And so in order to effectuate that powers, I believe we need a 2/3 vote. I can double check that. But I would think that a 2/3 vote would be necessary in order to authorize the Board of Selectmen to exercise the power of eminent domain.
So, Mike, at this point in time, that is the path, because it will not be a purchase. I assume the gift is I don't know if the entity still exists that's currently shown as the owner. So it will be eminent domain.
That's, if I could speak to that first, Mike, I don't believe that's a foregone conclusion. There is a deed on file from 2010 conveying this layout to the town. It's a confirmatory deed. We have the original in the town clerk's office. So the outside counsel we've been working with on this project has said that the registry may, once the vote, to accept takes place, the registry could accept that confirmatory deed. She said it depends who you get, and maybe they will, and maybe they won't. So eminent domain is in there as an option, but that's not, in my opinion, that's not a foregone conclusion. I don't know if Mike sees it differently.
So
No.
would the deed have like other people's names and different signatures on it that whoever was on the select board then, or whoever, I don't know if Mike was town council at that point, does that matter? Or do we need a new, in other words, are we starting from scratch? You don't think so, Angus?
I'm just telling you.
Yeah,
what the
okay.
attorney told me.
Okay,
So hopefully we get somebody who just puts himself on.
yeah.
Mike, do you want to comment on that?
Well, number one is the trust, the trust doesn't fail for lack of a trustee. I mean, theoretically, the neighbors up there are the beneficiaries. They could hold a meeting, they could appoint a trustee, and that person would then be authorized to sign. And we could put those things on record. Or you could take it by eminent domain. I think the only purpose we want to do here is to guarantee a 2/3 vote so that if you have to fall back to eminent domain, you have the authorization. And it's designated in the record of the town meeting that there was a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
So Mike, just hypothetically, let's say the article passed, but it passed by a majority vote. Would there need to then be an amended motion to remove the reference to eminent domain?
No, because it would just basically, they would be granted the powers that the town meeting granted. I mean, so they could accept a gift or purchase.
It says by purchase, gift, or eminent, and or eminent domain.
What? Yeah, that's why my question was if the motion was the same language as the article and it only passed by a simple majority, if we heard you correctly, that wouldn't
No,
authorize.
Angus, if I were to declare that the vote required a 2/3 majority and it passed by a simple majority, it failed. That's the way it goes. If the moderator says this motion requires a 2/3 vote and you don't get a 2/3 vote, the motion failed. And so you cannot accept as a public way, if
Well,
it's decided that this requires a 2/3 majority, and that's the way the vote is taken, then that's the way it has to go.
except that's for the eminent domain, Casey.
Well,
Someone
I
could
understand,
move.
I understand
Well,
what
let
you're
me
saying.
finish.
If they
Let me
amended the
finish.
motion to say accept as a gift or whatever, and didn't include all this language, that would be different. But if they included all of this language, which is what Angus asked, so that it included either by purchase, gift, and or eminent domain, and you feel that that requires a 2/3 vote, which I'm going to defer to you because you're the lawyer, then, and I declare that this requires a 2/3 vote because it includes the possibility of eminent domain. And if the motion passes by a simple majority, it fails. If it
But
doesn't
then,
by
but
2/3,
then Casey, an astute member of, say, the Board of Selectmen could then make a motion for reconsideration for an amendment not requiring eminent domain, and therefore would pass with a majority vote, right?
Yeah, but
possible,
I'm not,
whatever,
yeah, but
a
I'm not gonna be there anymore.
a motion to reconsider requires some time. You can't just make a motion to reconsider immediately after the vote was taken. And
What do
we're-
you consider
and we're at
time?
the End of the, it's up to me.
So,
But that would be another way to do it, is to have a motion to reconsider in order to adopt a motion that would not have eminent domain within it.
And that is a possibility, but I would not accept a motion to reconsider immediately after the motion failed.
you said you would not.
I would not. It requires some time.
But Mike, question for you. If somebody were to make a motion to reconsider, that person would have had to vote with the,
With the majority, that's true. However, since we do not identify the voters when we count the votes, that's very difficult to enforce.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go there. I mean, I'd have to look somebody in the face and say, did you vote for with the majority? And then if I felt that that person had not voted with the majority, I would be in the position of calling that person a liar.
Or somebody could question it, and then
Yes,
you would have to make that determination.
that's right. And that's not something that I'm willing to do. I mean, we do not identify the voters when we count the vote.
I don't think it'll be a problem, because I did a little math, and the cost, extremely, this would be a low end cost, but I figured out it'd be about $500 to $600 a year per household if we sent them a bill for snow removal and trash removal. So I think that they won't vote to not, they won't vote that.
I think that the best thing here, who's making this motion? One of the selectmen?
Yes,
So I think the best thing you can do is make up your minds before the meeting, whether it's going to be purchase or gift or eminent domain. If it's going to be purchase or gift, limit the motion to that.
But we don't know who can give it.
Well,
The KC, the development organization that did the development is that LLC or whatnot has probably been abandoned. So there isn't really an entity to be the giftee.
actually, there is. Archie,
There
but
is?
we can talk about that later. That's not relevant to tonight's
I
discussion.
think sticking with the 2/3 majority makes sense. I think it's gonna fly, and if it doesn't, then we will have to make a revised motion later when Casey is willing to accept it. But I think it's gonna fly.
if you don't, I don't understand what you're saying, because if you have to take it by eminent domain because you feel that you don't have an entity from whom you can purchase it or accept it as a gift, then what would the next motion be? I mean, you still don't have a means to accept it as a gift or to purchase it. It seems to me from what you're saying that the only thing that you're sure of is that you can take it by eminent domain. So if you're sure that you can take it by eminent domain, it makes sense to just move it the way it is and require a 2/3 vote. I can't
Yeah,
imagine.
but Casey, there is another path, but it's not germane to this discussion. I mean,
Yeah,
it's really, it'd take like a half an hour of an explanation of trust law and what's the title history, and it's really not relevant.
well, it's not relevant, except that without that understanding, you're asking me to accept a motion to reconsider that has no basis. Because if you cannot guarantee that there is a means to
There-
acquire this.
By then, we might have a means, Casey, and we'll be able to explain it at town meeting.
Yeah, there is a means, but it would require the assent and cooperation of the current landowners, which they may very well willing to do. So, I mean,
We're having a
it just takes
public,
some work.
the selectmen are having a public hearing on this and inviting all the people that are on the street, the abutters of the street, at their next selectmen's meeting. So I think they would get a better understanding of exactly what's going to happen after that meeting, Casey, and then they could advise you.
Well, you don't have to craft the wording of the motion until the day of the meeting. So if you have a way to make sure that you have these options, there's no problem. As long as the motion doesn't limit the possibilities. But you're asking me to accept a motion to reconsider. A motion to reconsider is a serious motion. It's not something that you take lightly. It's something that can be used very detrimentally in a meeting where people get up and leave and then someone says, okay, I want to reconsider. And so it's not something that you want to just use willy-nilly. If you're gonna, I would never recommend that you plan to make a motion, see what happens, and then plan to make a motion to reconsider. That's not the intent of the motion to reconsider. If new information becomes available during the meeting, then a motion to reconsider is in order. But if you're going on the information that you had when you come to the meeting, and you did not know that there was another way to achieve this other than eminent domain, and the motion failed because it required the 2/3 vote from eminent domain, I don't see how you could have new information that would inform a motion to reconsider later on.
How about I just didn't know how they were gonna vote?
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Article 20, to amend section 6 of the town bylaws, animal bylaw, in order to establish a new disposal of waste section that was approved 3-0 by the Board of Selectmen. Okay, next one. Article 21, to vote to amend section 40 of the town bylaws by adding sections 5.1 to 5.5 in order to establish a revolving fund for the following things: electric vehicle, charging stations, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing. That was approved 3-0 by the select board. Anything special about creating these revolving funds? Anything special about the vote on that?
No, just majority vote.
Okay. Article 22 is to, again, establish, I guess we already, no, we didn't, to create a revolving fund for the new fees related to trash and recycling. Same purpose as the electrical vehicle thing that was approved 3-0 by the select board. Article 23 establishes the limits on the amount that may be expended from each of the following revolving funds: the summer recreation fund, the library funds fund, the police vehicle revolving fund, the pipe safe maintenance and care revolving fund, the electric vehicle charging fund, and the trash and recycling and food waste revolving fund. That was approved 3-0 by the select board. And say fini.
Hey, Arch.
Glenn?
Yeah. Is that it?
No, there's Article 24.
They've already voted that, didn't they?
Yeah, Mike?
That was the, Article 24 was the soldiers and sailors that was taken up before the FinCom adjourned.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, well, everybody knows, Archie, would you mind that if I say a few words?
No, absolutely.
So this is my last selectmen's meeting. Casey, you've been, I just want to say a few words about you. You've been the moderator since I've been a selectman. You've been excellent. It's not a job that gets a lot of accolades, I don't think, but it really does, because you tell people no. And so I know how hard your job is. You've done a terrific job and worked well with the selectmen, and you've conducted our town meeting in the most professional and manner that I could see fit, and I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you, Glenn.
You've been a pleasure to work
I
with,
appreciate it.
in a wealth of knowledge, and thank you for that. I just have a few words I'd like to say. Well, all good things have to come to an end, and sooner or later. And next Monday, the reign of of my 15 years as a select person will come to an end. Being a select person, it's been very happy. It's been very sad. It's been disgusting. It's been humbled. I've been humbled. I've been concerned. But the most I've been is blown away on how the volunteerism by so many people have made this town a wonderful place to raise a family. It truly takes a village to make a good town great. All the town committees, the art programs, the sports leagues, both have grown over the years. The Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, the garden club, and especially the educational part of it, of the volunteerism. It's amazing how many people come together to try to give our children the best educational experience we can. And all that happens because people volunteer. We couldn't call ourselves West Newbury without everyone volunteering. I want to thank Mary and the kids for supporting me. I understand I took precious time away from the family. So, and I want to thank you for that. The building of the new middle high school, the town manager form of government, and appointing the first woman police chief in Essex County stand out as a few things of many I was glad to have a hand in. The new school is going great. Angus is doing an amazing job under the constraints we put him under. But we understood that if we tried to change the form of government too much, it might not pass. And we understood how positive this form of government would be for West Newbury. But we really do need to finish the job there. Thanks to all the selectmen, I have learned a lot of things that shaped me to be a better selectman. And I want to thank Ann O'Sullivan. You were correct. It's a lot easier throwing rocks from the cheap seats than it was being a select person. I just want everybody to remember, we are all human after all.
Thank you, Glenn. I think Glenn hit the mute button.
I think I think he hit the leave button by mistake.
Yeah,
Either that or it was a quick exit.
Well, it was a
Stage
It's-
right.
okay, motion to adjourn,
second.
all in favor? Good night, all.
Thanks,
Good night,
everyone.
all.
Call later. Have a good night.